This is 7 News.
Tonight, the flight and the fight for justice. Liam Davies' parents confront Indonesian authorities about their son's death.
They held that gun to my son's head and they just kept on pulling the trigger.
WA's road toll shock, our devastating start to 2013.
And we're currently sitting on 25 fatalities for Western Australia.
And a baby dolphin saves a stranded pod near Albany.
From the studios of 7 Perth, Blake Johnson.
Good evening. The parents of Liam Davies have travelled to Indonesia where their son was served a deadly drink. The Marmion teenager died a month ago from methanol poisoning. Tim and Lani Davies met with local authorities to beg for an investigation into their son's death.
It's a journey Tim and Lani Davies never dreamt they'd have to make. A trip to the holiday island that claimed their son. A mission to find those responsible for his death.
They held that gun to my son's head and they just kept on pulling the trigger. Every drink he had, they pulled the trigger and they knew eventually there would be a bullet in that chamber.
Liam was seeing in the new year at Rudy's pub on the island of Gili Trawangan. Little did he know the drinks he was being served were allegedly laced with methanol.
And it need never have happened.
No, it shouldn't have happened.
The poison ravaged his young body.
As soon as they said he's got this bleeding on the brain, so it would have been 6:30 in the morning, I said, we've got to get my baby home. We've got to fly him home.
Over the past 5 weeks, almost nothing has been done to investigate Liam's death, and the bar where he was drinking is still open. It took a personal visit from his parents for Lombok health authorities and police to make a start on the case. But for Tim and Lani Davies, nothing will bring back their son, and nothing will wipe the memory of the day they decided to turn off his life support.
And so you turn the machine off and you stand there and watch the life just drain out of your son. That would be probably the worst moment of my life.
Rob Scott, 7 News.
And on Sunday night, right after the news, the breakthrough that Liam's parents had hoped for. Police are pleading with Perth drivers to take more responsibility after the state's road toll increased to 25. That's almost 3 times what it was this time last year. Tonight, a 22-year-old driver clings to life after she crashed into the back of a truck. Kate Smithers reports.
The driver's side of the Suzuki took the brunt of the crash. The windscreen and bonnet caved in. Behind the wheel, a 22-year-old woman. She was trapped in the car. It had to be ripped open to get her out. She's now on life support in Royal Perth Hospital.
Unfortunately, she's now in intensive care in hospital. Percentage of survival is quite low at the moment.
Police are investigating how the Suzuki drove into the back of a council watering truck. It's unclear if the truck was stopped on the road or driving along Belia Drive.
It does appear that the work vehicle had all of its lights turned on, the normal work warning lights.
A female passenger is in Fremantle Hospital. Police say they're horrified by the number of fatal crashes so far this year. Yesterday's triple fatality brings WA's road toll to 25. At the same time last year, there were 9.
As people, you need to plan ahead if you're drinking, and don't drink drive and slow down.
Tributes were left at the crash scene on Morley Drive, where Jason Cook, Craig Kenny and Stephen Famato were killed. Police are investigating whether speed, alcohol or drugs contributed to the crash. Kate Smithers, 7 News.
The Liberals have made a back-to-school election promise to give every school in the state flashing 40-kilometre-an-hour road signs. It's a multi-million-dollar promise that depends on the government getting re-elected. Political editor Jeff Parry reports.
The Premier says the election campaign doesn't start till next Wednesday, but his Transport Minister Troy Buswell admits the vote chase is underway.
Clearly, we're now in a dialogue with the people of Western Australia about some of our plans for the election campaign.
Today's promise, $36 million for flashing 40km/h speed signs in school zones. Only 144 schools have flashing signs. The rest rely on the old signs to remind motorists to slow down. Mr Buswell says it will take 4 years to roll out the flashing speed signs to the other 928 public and private schools.
That it is one of the single biggest issues that is repeatedly raised with me at a local level in terms of road safety.
And Labor's trumpeting its MetroNet plan as the solution to Perth's traffic congestion. Today's promise, 5 traffic bridges over Reed and Tonkin highways, transforming them into freeways.
At the moment at some of these traffic lights, particularly these ones up here, you can wait for 20 minutes.
And the fallout continues from the bombshell admission on 7 News last night by celebrated whistleblower Ashton Foley that she's wanted in the US on fraud charges. Ms Foley gave evidence against her former employer at Peel Health Campus that forced the government to appoint an independent inquiry. The government says it may now delay that inquiry.
I'd call on the government to fast-track the inquiry, not hold it off.
Jeff Parry, 7 News.
The federal election campaign is less than a week old and the gloves are off already. An opposition MP today compared the Gillard government to the Nazi regime. The comments drew a swift and stinging reply. A close encounter with a shark off Scarborough has been captured on camera. A group of friends were fishing when they say the 4-metre shark circled their boat. Kate Smithers reports.
6 kilometres off Scarborough Beach. Dan Christensen and his mates saw this.
All of a sudden, one of the boys just said, "Oh, massive shark."
A 4-metre shark. It approaches Dan's camera.
And it circled the boat a few times and it's pretty intimidating the way it's kind of swam around and pretty mind-blowing.
For 20 minutes, Dan filmed the underwater monster. He says the shark was curious and kept its distance from their boat. Dan says the close encounter gave him a new perspective on sharks.
Why try and hunt them and why try and get rid of them? They're only trying to do their thing, like you're in their territory.
Yesterday, Scarborough and Trigg beaches were closed when the Westpac helicopter spotted a 3.5-metre tiger shark. Kate Smithers, 7 News.
A baby dolphin was used to save more than 100 others stranded in shallow water near Albany. Wildlife officers say the baby had sent out distress calls, which led to the rest of the pod following it into the shallows at Whalers Cove yesterday morning. The animals were trapped for several hours and one died. Eventually, officers from the Department of Environment and Conservation were able to catch the baby dolphin and take it out to deeper water. It wasn't long before the rest followed. Smog levels have become so bad in Beijing, factories are closing and cars are being ordered off the roads. As Adrian Brown reports, the air is so toxic, Australians living there are wearing face masks to protect themselves. And that is 7 News this Sunday. Thanks for your company. Now here's Chris Barth with Sunday Night.